After the 2000s era of horror remakes, such as Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street, the modern age of the horror franchise industry is now hooked into a requel era. While not an entirely new concept, it seems that audiences are much more interested in seeing a continuation of the horror franchises they grew up loving rather than a brand new interpretation. This new era has had fairly mixed results. Some have found tremendous success, such as Final Destination Bloodlines and the most recent Scream films. Others have been complete misfires, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Exorcist Believer. And others have been caught in the middle, like David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy. Now, it's I Know What You Did Last Summer's time to return to the spotlight after a nearly 20-year hiatus. Released just 1 year after the original Scream film, 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer took the horror genre by storm and kickstarted the careers of some of the 90s biggest stars, like Sarah Michelle Gellar. Not to mention taking home a modest return of $125 million on a budget of only $17 million. Alas, despite that box office success, one direct theatrical sequel, and one straight-to-video follow-up, the I Know What You Did Last Summer series never really blossomed into the franchise that its competitors were able to. Now, Do Revenge director and Thor Love and Thunder writer Jennifer Caton Robinson is taking a stab at a new reboot/continuation. It has the exact same title as the original film, another sequel trend that is growing tiresome, and that's, sadly, only one of the pitfalls that this revival attempt falls into.
What is I Know What You Did Last Summer about?
Taking place roughly 3 decades after the original, I Know What You Did Last Summer takes audiences back to the oceanside town of Southport, but with an entirely new group of young would-be victims. One fateful 4th of July night, Ava Brooks, Danica Richards, and the rest of their friends accidentally become responsible for a terrible accident that leaves a dead body in its wake. Their unwillingness to confess to what happened leads to the unprecedented return of the fisherman, the ruthless serial killer who terrorized Southport and a different group of young people all those years ago. Whether this is the same killer from decades past or an entirely new psychopath, the new group can't do it alone. So they enlist the help of some individuals who have been in the situation before, Julie James and Ray Bronson. Right off the bat, I Know What You Did Last Summer gets off to a somewhat odd start, as the thing the group of heroes did last summer doesn't even really seem to be their fault, especially compared to the inciting incident of the original, which flagrantly placed the teens at fault. The group's decision not to tell anyone is just one example of many points where these characters fall into the classic trope of making stupid decisions over and over again, particularly as the third act starts to ramp up. These strange decisions don't add much to a woefully uneven murder mystery story that starts out as a beat-for-beat retelling of the original before taking some bizarre turns into existential CGI dream sequences and a quarter-baked commentary on implied cultism. Tonally speaking, I Know What You Did Last Summer also feels inconsistent, going for a more comedic feel than the past installments without having enough jokes that hit. Thankfully, amid all the millennial humor and questionable character decisions, The Fisherman themselves has never looked this good. Jennifer Caton Robinson's direction does a wonderful job of making this 90s icon feel massive and intimidating at all times, with smart camera placement and sound design choices. The Fisherman's first kill, in particular, is a fantastic slasher introduction, and every action sequence they show up in makes them feel like a significant threat. Sadly, the suspenseful moments are often ruined by predictable jump scares that are paired with some of the most obnoxiously loud sound effects you'll ever hear. The Smile films prove that jump scares can be used effectively when paced correctly, but the fake-out ones here in particular often result in a grating experience.
I Know What You Did Last Summer doesn't use its characters to their full.
The standouts of the new group of protagonists are easily Chase Suey Wanders and Madeline Klein. They may start out as a bit rudimentary, but as the film goes on, their characters become more fleshed out and developed, and their scenes together are an emotional highlight. The rest of their friend group is a different story, as Milo, Teddy, and Stevie all feel incredibly underdeveloped. The main romantic relationship especially suffers from what can only be described as anti-chemistry. Meanwhile, Gabriette Bechtel's Tyler is a genuinely memorable standout despite only being a minor supporting character. Perhaps the biggest issue of I Know What You Did Last Summer is one that most requels just cannot escape from: a misunderstanding of how to utilize the franchise's legacy characters. Those expecting a lot from Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. are going to be disappointed, as they only have a fraction of the screen time their co-stars have, despite being the original leads. That would be all well and good if they at least had urgency in the plot, but Jennifer Love Hewitt feels like she's only there to say dramatic one-liners from the original movie, which is ironic considering she has a monologue about how nostalgia is overrated. Speaking of nostalgia, some of I Know What You Did Last Summer's fan service is pretty hit and miss. Sometimes it's charming, such as when the Bahamas set events of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer are acknowledged. Others are tougher pills to swallow, such as a cameo appearance that feels extremely forced into the narrative. Alas, nothing compares to the third-act twist of the new film, which is 1000% not going to be to hardcore fans' taste. It's a massive swing for the film to try and pull off, but it doesn't manage to contextualize this bombshell revelation in a way that feels canonically and logically.
I Know What You Did Last Summer is lost in the shadow of other slashers. Even when discussing the original beloved film, it's hard to deny that I Know What You Did Last Summer always lived in the shadow of other slashers like Scream. This feels only more true in the new installment, which plays like it's following in the footsteps of other requels instead of forging its own path. The aesthetic choices do help the film feel like a 90s slasher, but its narrative faults make it feel more like a generic and perplexing one. Those hoping to see their favorite killer fisherman tackle some fun action sequences will get their money's worth, even if the villain's resolution will raise a lot of eyebrows. If you're looking for something deeper, like fleshed-out characters both new and old, and a twisted mystery tale, then this newest installment doesn't hit the mark. Perhaps the sequel teased at the film's end could pave the way for a bolder, more audacious chapter. But as of now, 2025's I Know What You Did Last Summer wasn't worth waiting for. I Know What You Did Last Summer slashes into theaters on July 18th, 2025.